When you think about the next massive tech IPO, you're probably not thinking about crypto, but maybe you should be. So today, we're going to unpack the huge, highly anticipated public offering of crypto giant Kraken and what it really means for the future of finance. And that's a question that's moving from the fringes right to the front of Wall Street, and fast. For years, right, the blockbuster IPOs have been all about software or social media, but what if the next one, the really big one, comes from the world of crypto? And that's the conversation Kraken is forcing everyone to have. And here's why this is such a big deal. Kraken going public, it's not just about one company's balance sheet. No, it's a huge signal. It's kind of like a barometer for how mature the entire crypto world has become. It's a test of legitimacy, a sign of real engagement with regulators, and maybe, just maybe, a brand new bridge for all that mainstream money to flow into the digital economy. All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First up, we'll get into why this is such a milestone for crypto. Then we'll really get to know the company itself, Kraken. After that, we are diving deep into the numbers behind that massive $20 billion valuation. We'll look at how you might be able to invest. And finally, we'll weigh the all-important risk versus reward. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. Let's start with the big picture. Why is a crypto exchange going public such a major event? Why should you care right now? Well, it's because it forces two totally different worlds to finally speak the same language. Think about it. To go public, Kraken has to open up its books, play by the same strict rules as any other company on the stock market. That kind of transparency gives traditional investors a familiar way to look at the business, to measure its value and its risks. It's basically building a bridge from Wall Street straight into the crypto economy. So, who is this company at the heart of it all? Let's talk about Kraken. Now, these guys are not some flash-in-the-pan startup. Founded way back in 2011, they're basically one of the OGs of the industry, and they've built their entire reputation on two things: security and reliability. And this right here, this mission statement, it's really been their North Star from the very beginning. It's not just about making trades easier. It's about a much bigger vision, right? One that's all about financial freedom and getting more people included through this new technology. And that principled stance has helped them build a seriously loyal user base over the years. Okay, so if you want to understand Kraken's real value, you have to look past just the trading fees. Their business is incredibly diverse. They've got the regular spot trading, sure, but they also run a huge derivatives and futures market. They offer staking services, which brings in recurring revenue. They have custody solutions for big institutions, and they handle massive over-the-counter trades. What I'm saying is, this isn't just a place to buy and sell Bitcoin. It's a full-blown, diversified financial services company, and that makes it a whole lot more resilient. But really, if there's one thing that defines Kraken, it's their obsession with security. They were the ones who pioneered this idea of proof of reserves, basically getting an independent audit to prove, without a doubt, that they hold every single customer's assets one-to-one. I mean, in an industry that's seen its fair share of scandals and shocking collapses, this focus on trust, well, that's their crown jewel. All right, let's dive into the numbers, because that's what you're waiting for, right? How in the world does a crypto exchange get valued at a staggering $20 billion? Man, the road to this IPO has been an absolute sprint. Seriously, just look at this timeline. In less than 2 months, their valuation jumps from $15 billion to $20 billion, with huge names like Citadel and Jane Street backing them. Then, the very next day, they file their IPO paperwork with the SEC. They are not wasting any time. They're clearly trying to strike while the iron is hot, with an eye on the first quarter of 2026. And this is the fuel for that fire. This is the engine behind all that confidence. Just in the third quarter of 2025, their revenue exploded by 50%, hitting almost $650 million. They processed over $500 billion in transaction volume. And let's be super clear here. These aren't just good for a crypto company numbers. No way. This is the kind of explosive growth that makes investors in any sector sit up and pay attention. Now, to really get a handle on this valuation, we've got to put it side by side with its biggest public competitor, Coinbase. And what you see is that investors in the private markets are paying a real premium for Kraken shares. They're paying more based on revenue and even more based on profits. But look at that last line. What this tells you is that investors are basically saying each Kraken user is worth almost double what a Coinbase user is worth. That suggests they believe Kraken has stickier, higher value clients, maybe because of that focus on institutions and derivatives. Okay, so this brings us to the question I'm sure is on a lot of your minds. How could you actually get in on this? Let's walk through the investment playbook. Basically, there are three different stages, or three potential ways in. Before the IPO, sometimes accredited investors, so those with a high net worth, can buy shares on private markets. Then, during the IPO itself, some retail brokerages might offer a limited number of shares at that initial price. And then, of course, after the IPO, the doors swing open and anyone can buy the stock on an exchange like the NASDAQ or the NYSE. Yeah, so in the last few years, platforms like Robinhood, SoFi, and others have started giving regular investors a shot at getting into IPOs, which is awesome. It's great for making things more accessible. But, and this is a big but, you gotta remember these allocations are super competitive. Getting shares is absolutely not a guarantee. And this is a really, really important distinction to make. You have to understand what you're actually buying here. Buying Kraken stock, think of it like buying shares in the companies that sold picks and shovels during the gold rush. You're betting on the infrastructure of the entire crypto economy. Its success is tied to how well they run the business. Buying Bitcoin is totally different. That's a direct bet on a single asset's price. They're related, for sure, but they are very different investments. Okay, last section. Let's pull this all together and talk about the bottom line, the classic risk versus reward, because no investment is a sure thing, and that is especially true in the crypto world. So the argument for investing in Kraken, the bull case, it's pretty strong. They're a security pioneer, they've always tried to work with regulators, their revenue comes from a bunch of different places, and they've got a lock on big institutional clients. I mean, they're not just saying it themselves. An analytics firm, Kaiko, actually ranks them as the #1 crypto exchange on the planet in Q3 2025. That's a huge stamp of approval. But you always have to look at the other side of the coin. You've got to balance that excitement against the very real risks. First off, Kraken's business is tied to the wild swings of the crypto market. Let's be real, if Bitcoin tanks, their business is going to feel it. Period. The rules and regulations are still being written, competition is absolutely brutal, and of course, there are always security and tech risks. And all of this brings us back to that one huge final question. This IPO is way more than just another company listing its stock. It's a test case for the whole industry. Will Kraken's long history of security and playing by the rules be enough to build that permanent, trusted bridge between the wild world of crypto and the established power of Wall Street? We're all going to find out the answer to that when that opening bell finally rings.